All right, everybody, welcome in. Happy Monday. It's the Kidder and Kev Show. Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM. Live on 1410 ESPN Radio. Live, of course. What do we got? Oh, there we go. The volume. Laptop. Rookie mistake. Actually, come out of the weekend, I'll distract it a little bit. But we welcome you in. It's Kidder and Kev Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We hope everyone had a great weekend. We are off and rolling. Mr. Kev Nash, welcome. Happy Monday.
What up, though?
Another day in paradise.
Indeed.
As they always say. And, you know, as sports talk radio hosts, we should feel pretty pleased right now and be pretty excited because, well, we just had the draft this weekend, which means we're getting closer and closer to the content funnel, just starting to come near the, towards the bottom. We got to reach deep down into our bag of tricks until the fall gets here to save us, no doubt.
Indeed. But we had a great draft. We had some great NBA playoff action over the weekend. Lots to discuss, lots to draft grades to break down. I know you're not a draft grade guy, but, there's teams out there that improved on paper and some teams that just stayed regular and still trying to figure out their free agency situation. Some teams are signing former players that used to play for them and got rid of them for some strange reason. Now I want to bring them back. So we got a lot to talk about, especially in the AFC North.
We do. We normally kick off the show with what's trending, but with coming out of the weekend, we already know what's trending. It's all. I think people are hearing that little chime in their sleep at night right now, but it's obviously instant reaction to the NFL draft. We'll kick things off with the Cincinnati Bengals, the reaction to their draft, because it's been kind of interesting hearing a lot of people's feedback regarding what the Cincinnati Bengals did over the weekend. I'm here to tell you I'm kind of split in the middle. It wasn't a great draft, but it wasn't a bad draft. And a lot of these, too, there's a lot of teams that feel good about their draft, and it won't end up being great. And then there's some that don't feel great about it, that it might end up being great. Mm-hmm. The Bengals are right in the middle to me. I was listening to a little bit of the show before ours, of course, off the bench, Trace and Casey and those guys. And, felt about a, conglomerate grade of a B for the Cincinnati Bengals as far as that's concerned. I don't want to bore and go pick by pick. We'll give our thoughts on the Bengals draft, but just your overall, as you sat back and looked at what the Bengals did over the weekend, your thoughts are what as far as what they accomplished?
So on Thursday night when they went with Mims out of Georgia, I was so glad that they went with Mims out of Georgia, being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, because that was the guy that we were so closely tied to as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And for me, on a personal level, I didn't want Mims because Mims has only played 8 games in college.
Yep.
8 starts at the college level. If that was a quarterback, no one would touch that. I'm not sure why, he's the hottest commodity out there. Obviously, the upside is there. He has probably the biggest upside of anybody because he's had such few starts and he's still regarded as a high prospect. So it's going to be up to the coaches from the Cincinnati Bengals to get that potential out of him. That's one. The second thing that I take away from the Cincinnati Bengals draft is the defensive tackle from Michigan.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's exactly what I was afraid of. So for a Steelers fan, I was hoping that they didn't get one of the quality DTs. Not only did they get a quality DT, I think that he's the second best DT in this draft. I mean, go back. I know it's not a sexy thing to do, but go back and just look what he did against Ohio State. Look what he did against Alabama. Look what he did against Washington. The 3 biggest games of their season, he balled out of control. It's not going to show up in the stat column where, oh, man, he's making a whole TFLs or sacks and things of that nature. There's a reason why teams couldn't run against Michigan, and he was a main force in that. The only other player that I was glad that the Cincinnati Bengals didn't get, Harbaugh actually drafted him, Colston, the middle linebacker from Michigan. I thought that the Bengals or the Browns or, goodness, the Ravens would have grabbed him. Thank goodness he's not playing anywhere in the AFC North. But those picks for them, very good. And you got Jermaine Burton from Bama. There's a lot of questions about his off the field or his antics or whatever. I'll say this about that. Every player comes with baggage. It's just a matter of which baggage are you willing to deal with. On the flip side of that, when you come from not only Alabama, but he also played at Georgia, when you come with baggage from both of those programs, it's not a Alabama problem. It's not a Georgia problem. It's a Jermaine Burton problem. He's the issue here. He's the common denominator in all this. So when I look at it from a whole, talent-wise, and I'm a talent guy, I think that more talent you get, it's up to the coaches to manage said talent and, get those guys on the same page. The talent is immense, especially the first 3 picks in Mims, Jenkins, and Burton. Those guys are going to contribute to the team immediately because they're high-level talented guys. But the thing is, Are you going to be able to get that talent out of Mims with such few starts? Are you going to be able? Well, Chris Jenkins, I don't think anybody needs to worry about him. He is a plug and play from day one. That's an easy one, so to speak. But the Jermaine Burton, like, all right, is he going to be okay being the number 3 guy? Because we all know who 1 and 2 are. Like, hey, man, you're going to have to wait your turn. You're going to have to be a rookie. I mean, you were the man at Georgia. You were the man at Bama. You are not the man in that wide receiver room in Cincinnati. You're like maybe even the 4th guy. You know what I'm saying? So those are things that, the coaching staff and, the leadership in the Cincinnati Bengals are going to have to wrap their arms around. But, the Chris Jenkins one is really what makes it a B+ for me. Like, because the talent is immense. But not only they got the talent with Jenkins, I mean, you got the production and you got a leader already off the rip. I mean, he's a upperclassman. That's a great pick for the Cincinnati Bengals.
So every grade is based on what you perceive these guys to be at some point, right? Like if you do retrospect grades, that's why like last week heading into the draft, we were kind of taking a look at some past drafts of like, man, like how loaded that draft was, or man, look at the guys that these teams passed up on and all this. And, the Browns are famous for passing up on a lot of super talented individuals. St. Brown, the Browns passed up on him to take Anthony Schwartz. So, that's always a painful thing for me to be able to deal with. But when I start judging teams for how they drafted, it's based on, just the kind of the feel of who they are right now. And when you are a Cincinnati Bengals team who is not known for your draft expertise, and I'm saying that semi-respectfully because I know that they've hit on some recent drafts, obviously. That's why they're a Super Bowl contender. You got your Joe Burrow, your Jamar Chase, your T. Higgins, you got your Logan Wilson. I mean, they've added a lot of talent through the draft. They've had some weak drafts the last couple of years, or at least guys that can play, but they haven't solidified their roles yet, so that's making Bengals fans a little bit uneasy. I can't comfortably give the Bengals a B or anything less than – I have to give them an average grade of a C. Okay, I have to give them a Kinner grade. That's what I got a lot, right? I have to give them a Kinner grade, and here's why. The Cincinnati Bengals are not known for their draft expertise. So when you look at their first 5 picks, there are 4 projects of the 4 of the first 5 picks are all risks. Now you could say every pick is a risk, right? And I get that. But when you look at the fact that, Amari Mims, only the 8 starts. I mean, and people say, well, he's from Georgia. He's a winner. We did the show with Casey last week. I said, well, Billy Price was a winner. I mean, Jonah Williams was a winner. Like, I don't care about that. You could take that, take that stuff and throw it out. I don't want to hear that. Right. No offense to all these kids. A lot of these guys are winners, and just because they don't pan out in the NFL, it doesn't make them losers. So I'm not going to say, there's guys that don't cut it. Like Billy Price, still a winner. All right, Jonah Williams, still a winner. They just weren't as, elite a talent as what they were hoping for.
Jonah Williams, Bama, right?
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, it's like I don't buy into that type of stuff as far as that's concerned. So Amari Mims, you take a gamble there. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that, but you better take guaranteed hits after that. Guaranteed hits as far as like checking off all the boxes from pre-draft evaluations. Then what do? You go the Jermaine Burton route. Okay. The Jermaine Burton route's one because you want to talk about, how they kind of vetted the locker room and they cleaned out all the culture, cancer people, they got rid of them and all this. And then you bring in a guy that can't sit there and say he's going to come bring that locker room down, but why are you going to risk it? Okay, here's the thing. I know everyone's saying, well, that T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they're going to have to put their arms around him. Jamar Chase, he's worried about his contract coming up. And I'm not saying he'll be a bad teammate. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of things that these guys are dealing with that the last thing that they need is to be a babysitter, right? They're all professionals. We don't need to babysit Jermaine Burton. T. Higgins technically doesn't even want to be there. He's demanded 2 trade requests, already, but requested to be traded twice. You think he's going to be the one that you want babysitting Jermaine Burton? Like, by the way, 4th best wide receiver prospect in the draft. He fell because of said issues. I like what you said, too, about the fact that, it's not like, too, he played at questionable programs with questionable coaches that could have questionable culture. We're talking about Alabama and Georgia, the 2 most recent dynasties in college football. It's not a Georgia issue. It's not an Alabama issue. It's a Jermaine Burton issue. Do you feel confident that, that Jermaine Burton issue won't become a Cincinnati Bengals issue when it's all said and done? So you took a risk there. I like the McKinley Jackson. By the way, the best pick, Chris Jenkins. That pick pissed me off. No issue with that one. In fact, I was shocked he was there still with as many people touted him or whatever. He's going to be a baller. I'm a big fan of his. Good for you, Bengals. Like, you got a good one as far as that's concerned. Run stopper, that's big because you lose DJ Reader, who's one of the ultimate run stoppers. So I think that's a big, plug gap right there. But the other pick, the 4 of the first 5 picks are all reaches or projects, if you will. You go and you get McKinley Jackson. According to The Athletic, he had a 6th or 7th round grade. You took him in the 3rd round. Okay, according to NFL Network, he got a 6th round grade. You took him in the 3rd round. So 3 of your first 4 picks reaches. 4 of your first 5 picks are reaches. They're gambles. The Cincinnati Bengals, in my opinion, no offense, not trying to stir the pot, you are not a good enough organization to have reaches on 4 of your first 5 picks. And the other one, and I kind of like this pick, but you have to sit back and wait. Eric All, the tight end out of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa produces some decent tight ends every
Indeed.
once in a while, but you took you reached on him as well, because this is a guy that had severe back surgery back in 2022. He's coming off of an ACL tear this past season. So, Kev, that's why I have to go the C route. There is nothing that makes you feel, outside of Jenkins, one pick of your first 5 is the only one that can make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, when the rest are, well, God, I hope it works. I hope Burton doesn't bring his attitude into our locker room and tear it down. I hope All can stay healthy. I hope Jenkins, who has a 6th and 7th round grade, can come in and produce for us. Man, I hope a guy that only has 8 starts, I hope he's good enough to either potentially replace Trent Brown or contribute in some kind of rotation role this upcoming season. That's why I'm down on the Bengals draft to a certain extent. I like the upside of all of these guys, but the Bengals are not a good enough organization to gamble on 4 of their first 5 picks. That's just my takeaway.
So if they hit on 2 of the first 4 picks, what does that make it?
Well, I think it matters which of those 2 4 hits.
Not to cut you off,
No,
but I
you're
think
good.
that the Chris Jenkins, I think everybody.
I think we're on agreement on that. Yes.
So like that, they're
cheater, but yeah, no,
yeah. But that's one. So out of the remaining 3, if one of those hits, that it's a win, right?
I guess from that perspective, but it's like, you look at what the Chiefs are doing right now. They're not just hitting on 1 of their first 5 picks. They're having hit on multiple picks. You're about to pay Jamar. Burrow's paid. You're not going to be able to. If you make a mistake in the draft, you can't go fix those holes financially, like you've had the luxury of doing the last couple of years, I guess. That's why I mean, like, at this point, if this draft happened 2 years ago, okay, I see why you're taking a gamble on some of these. Like, you can financially make up for some of these mistakes. This draft could set you back. If only Jenkins is the only one that pans out of these top 5 picks, that's going to set you back a year, maybe 2, if you're not lucky enough for those. The one I like the Jermaine Burton pick, though, because Burton, I know you said this year he has to come in and sit back and know his role as far as being the 3rd guy, but that's potentially if the 4th best wide receiver prospect in one of the deepest wide receiver drafts in quite some time. That's pretty damn good. Right? 2 potential really good receivers made their way to the AFC North. We'll talk about Tez coming up in a bit. I love that pick from the Ravens. We'll get to that. But, as far as I'm concerned, I think they may have got the best receiver in the draft, or best receiver in the AFC North out of the draft there. I really like the upside of him because he can come in and be the instant number 2 to Jamar Chase. And he could be a very dangerous rookie wide receiver right now, one of the most dangerous number 3 wide receivers right now, because it's all going to be about Jamar Chase. It's all going to be about stopping T. Higgins. If Jermaine Burton can go in and be a star right off the bat, the Bengals get Chris Jenkins, a guy that they know right off the bat long term. And now, T. Higgins, we'll chuck the deuces to you. It's been nice, but hey, we have your replacement. We're good. I think the upside's there, and I'm not poo-pooing on the draft. I'm just saying I have to give it a C because I don't think they're a good enough organization to gamble in 4 of your first 5 picks. That's all. But I like the upside of pretty much all of them. The only one, McKinley Jackson's the only one I thought was the biggest reach of them all. I thought it was a big gamble in the first round to take a guy that only has 8 starts. Like I said, 4 of your first 5, that's why I keep emphasizing that over and over. You reached on 4, or you took a gamble on 4 of your first 5, and that is kind of dangerous if you ask me.
Yeah, if I was going to pick 2 guys that I think that are going to pan out, it obviously would be Chris Jenkins at 1. The second would be Jermaine Burton, simply because he's landing in a great situation. He has a quarterback. He has other guys around him, so he doesn't have to, quote unquote, be the number 1 guy off the rip, like Olave or Garrett Wilson or anything like that. So
to draft him to be the number 1.
So I can ease my way into this, and guess what? The great thing about the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver situation is Jamar Chase, he can play all over the field. He can play on the inside. He can play on the outside. He can play in the backfield. So, all right, look, on these plays that Jermaine Burton is learning early in the first half of the season, look, man, you're going to play on the outside. You're not even going to have to worry about any of the option routes on the inside. Hey, man, you're going to run the drag. You're going to run the fly. You're going to run the comeback. You're going to run the 9 route. Just worry about the basic route tree. And he's so talented, and Jamar is such a dangerous weapon. The coverage is always going to be shaded towards him, so he's going to be able to operate one-on-one. And what we've been able to see in this league now, receivers are able to come in out of college and make an instant impact. So I think that he's going to make a crazy impact for the Cincinnati Bengals off the rip, and mainly because he's got a great quarterback throwing on the ball. You know, he isn't going to be out there, you know, just running routes on air with his hands up like, hey, I'm open. No, if he's open and he's the primary read, he's going to get the ball. He's going to be there on time. So I think they're going to hit, obviously, on Jenkins, and I think they're going to hit on Jermaine Burton. Now, the Mims thing, you know, it ultimately is a good thing for him to go to the Cincinnati Bengals, a place where he doesn't have to go in right away and be the instant starter at right or left tackle with Trent Brown being there. He can ease his way in there. Maybe they start him out at guard or something like that. So he's not being dropped into a situation like, hey, man, we need you to go ahead and protect that blind side. Thanks, buddy. And hey, man, I've only played 8 games, only had 8 starts. Now, you go back and look at some of those starts and where he got a lot of burn. You look at that national semifinal game against Ohio State. He held his own versus JT Tuimoloau and the Buckeyes. So he has the talent. It's just he doesn't have a lot of reps.
Well, you know, oh, man, I started confidently going in for his name. Couldn't say it right. But, you know, it's not like they were playing Penn State. You know, Penn State's the only team he dominates, like, to be fair. But, no, you're right. Like, so to be clear, because I don't want Bengals fans mad at me, they took their first 5 picks, 5 excellent players, right? 5 excellent players. But like right now, the draft is so important for the Bengals moving forward. It's like the Chiefs. Everyone says, "Oh, the Chiefs draft doesn't matter. They're drafting like number 32 and all this." No, their draft's even more important now because they can't. I mean, they just extended Travis Kelce today to make him the highest paid tight end in football. They extended his contract for the next 2 years. Like, so you know who your tight end is. You know who your quarterback is. You got a lot of money invested in that O line, but their drafts become very pivotal because again, when they reach a weakness on either side of the ball, they're not financially flexible enough to be able to go overcome that. They have to fill some of these gaps in the draft, and that's why you have to hit. And that's where the Bengals are right now. So to gamble on 4 of the first 5, it's a little gutsy, but I'm saying something else. I'm saying a little gutsy, but, you know, we'll see what ends up happening. I don't hate it. I don't like it as far as that's concerned. The one thing Casey and I talked about when him and I did the show Friday, I just said the mixed messaging from the Bengals is the only problem I have. Like, T. Higgins demands a trade. Like, you know, T. Higgins demands a trade. Oh, no, we're trying to win now. We're not trading you. We're trying to win now. You know, obviously the stuff right now going on, you know, with their pass rusher right now. So, Hendrickson, he wants out. You know, no, we're trying to win now. We're not trading you. But then you draft a guy in the first round that only has 8 starts, and he's a project for the next couple of years or the hopeful replacement for. So don't tell us you're in win now mode, and then in the draft it's all about the future. Like, the draft is about winning now too. You're the second worst defense and second worst run game in the NFL last year. Don't tell me you're in win now mode and then draft for the future. You could accomplish both. There was enough talent there, but again, I'll probably eat my words like more times than not when it comes to the Bengals. We'll see as far as that's concerned. Kenner and Cav, 1410 ESPN Radio. Let's open up the phone lines. Bengals fans, your thoughts on the draft. What did you like? What did you not like about some of the picks that your team made? Again, I still think the first 5 picks, 5 really good players. Then the McKinley Jackson one was the one I scratched my head. There was a lot of mock drafts, a lot of, you know, prognosticators out there that gave him a 5th, 6th, 7th, round grade. They take him in the 3rd. I thought that was kind of iffy. You know, a tight end with a bunch of injury issues, iffy. Obviously, the character issues, the off-the-field issues, iffy. With Jermaine Burton, offensive lineman who only has 8 starts, iffy. But then you get Jenkins. So, you know, there's that one. But 518-1410. Give Kevin and I a call. Curious Bengals fans, how do you feel about your team's draft coming out of the weekend? 937-518-1410. Kenner and Kev will be right back. 1410 ESPN Radio and Chatterbox Sports on YouTube.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Our forecast: showers and a low of 60 tonight. Chance of rain and then partly sunny and 75 tomorrow. And on Wednesday, sunshine and 82. I'm Rick Schrepp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
I don't know what I want to do. I'm just not sure that college is right for me.
Have you considered a career in dental assisting? I love my job as a dental assistant. I have flexible work hours, the money is good, and I get to work in a professional, people-oriented dental office. What I really love about my job is knowing that I give people a healthy smile.
For more information about becoming a dental assistant, contact your high school guidance counselor. Or if you are no longer in school, talk to a dentist in your community or visit ODA.org. This message is brought to you by the members of the Ohio Dental Association.
Polking Bowling Centers are your connection for family fun or a great night out with friends. Join your friends in a fun summer league, adult, youth, mixed, and travel leagues. Polking Bowling Centers have a fun program waiting just for you. All Summer League bowlers get a VIB pass, and full Summer League bowlers get to go to the end of the league party, where you have a chance to win your share of $2,000 cash. Check a center for more details. Let the good times roll at Polking Lanes in Dayton, Polking Woodman Lanes in Kettering, and Polking Lane South in Centerville.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
When you're rolling Charmin, ultra soft on the party. Less is more, so roll it back, everybody. Charmin's irresistibly soft and hella nice. The grip is always soft. It's our party vibe. She's cushioning things so our cheeks feel fly. So what? Everybody wanna touch the sky.
Charmin Ultra Soft is irresistibly soft and more absorbent, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken has the best fast food fried chicken. Sure, it sounds like an opinion, till you hear that USA Today readers said the same thing. Get a taste of it with the Famous Favorites Variety Box. Available at a great low price. With 5 hand-breaded strips and 5 pieces of crispy golden bone-in chicken, it's perfect for feeding your whole crew. Only at Lee's. Famous for chicken.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. See Lance Roofing and Siding at their new location at 6903 Dayton Springfield Road in Enon. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722. Online at lanceroofing.com.
Try the new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty at Wendy's. It's like walking down recent memory lane. And be quick, it's only available for a limited time.
Dayton sports fans, don't forget to follow and subscribe to ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. Listen, watch, interact. Search ESPN Dayton on YouTube.
All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, also live on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Kev, this past Friday, I had a chance to go check out the Chatterbox studios again. You were in Indianapolis. You got a chance to go catch some NBA playoff action between the Pacers and Bucks.
What a game. What a great game. Obviously, everybody knows I'm a huge Dame Lillard fan. So I was like, man, it's in Indianapolis. It's an hour and a half away. Why not go to a playoff game? Why try to bust my hump and try to go to a Bucks-Pacers game in the middle of the week? It's a Friday. It was at 5:30. The hotel we stayed at is right down the street from where the Pacers play. We're able to walk over there, checked out the game, went to overtime. Chris Middleton had a great game. It was a great game to watch. I'm a basketball fan, so as a basketball fan, I was highly entertained. It's good NBA action over the weekend outside of the Cavs. The Cavs played like pure D. Beep.
Yeah, we'll get some NBA playoff talk coming up around the corner. Obviously, the Cavs, after dominating games 1 and 2 against the Magic, they go on the road, and they're not. It's not like this is the first playoff appearance post LeBron where they would be given the benefit of the doubt like last year, and still technically wouldn't given the benefit of the doubt like last year. But they're not going to be forgiven for any kind of crazy exit. In fact, even if they win this series, these 2 games are still going to be held against them, whether that's right or wrong, but it's going to be how they respond coming back. We talked about this, like Donovan Mitchell, they lose this series, he's out after this summer, whether it's him demanding out or Cleveland just saying, crap, we got to get something for him and figure something out. But yeah, we'll talk some NBA coming up, but that series is going to be an interesting one to follow. The Lakers trying to avoid the sweep.
Oh, yeah. Lakers won on Saturday night. They avoided the sweep from the Nuggets, so then they play again tonight at 10:30. So the Nuggets lead at 3-1. So a whole bunch of games coming on tonight, man. You got so many games that I can't even keep track of all the games that's going down in the association tonight, man. I love it so much. Just to touch on the Cavs real quick, it's 2-2, and I'm telling everybody to relax. Like, it's 2-2. They won their home games. Cavs have won their home game. So the biggest key, obviously, you have home court advantage. Take advantage of that. Win this game tomorrow night, a game that I'm not going to be able to see because it's on NBA TV. But you win that game, most importantly, probably lose when you go down to Orlando and take care of business in Game 7 and you move on to the next round. Look, I personally think that the Cavs should have been able to win this series in 5 games. That's obviously not going to happen now. It's going to be a black stain on them. But if you look at the games and you look how they play, when they were doing their best this season, it was Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen. Now that you bring Darius Garland back to the mix, you bring Mobley back to the mix, it seems like everybody's lost on offense again. People act like they don't know what they're doing. So if win or lose, it's time to move on from Evan Mobley. It's time to move on from Garland. The only guy that is, quote-unquote, safe is Jared Allen. He's the only one that's safe. But choose between Garland and Mitchell. One of them got to go. One of them got to go. And then Evan Mobley. It's been nice, but you got to go, man. You're not developing at the rate that we need you to develop at.
Especially after that great rookie season that he had, because the reason that the expectations were slapped on them so quickly was because, you got dominant guards, and this was before Mitchell. You had dominant dominant guards, and now you're going to add a potential future star at big, and he's still the same player.
Just flat line.
Yeah. So
just a straight, like, he hasn't gotten any better, hasn't gotten any worse. Just, hey, man, hey.
Yep.
But this is your 3rd year. We need a major leap, especially when you look around the association and you look at guys like Wemby. You look at guys like Chet. Chet is technically playing his first year in the NBA, and he's the biggest difference maker for OKC. I know SGA gets all the pub and everything like that. You look at the defense for OKC with Chet on the floor and without him on the floor. He's the rim protector. He's the guy holding things down in the middle. That's what Evan Mobley is supposed to do. And not only that, Chet is scoring at will as well. So when you see all these other bigs around the league making impacts on both ends of the court and you're not able to do that with your guy, it's like, hey, man, they're younger than you and they're better than you.
Yeah.
So it's time to –
and imagine, too, with the dominant play you're getting from Jared Allen, if you're also getting dominant play from Mobley, they would be probably the most scariest team in the East, right up there with Boston and some of the others. But we'll do our association real quick. We'll run through the NBA playoffs coming up here in just a little bit. Again, we welcome you back, Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio. But yeah, doing the show Friday with Casey over in Hamilton at the studios or whatever. First time doing the show from the studio, but of course we talked a lot of Bengals. We opened up with Bengals here today. Didn't love the first round pick. Didn't hate it, but I didn't I think they have way more talent on the roster today than what they did at this point last week, and that's what you ask for. But the draft becomes so key. I saw someone question, how do the Chiefs have enough money to pay Travis Kelce? Where do they have this money? The reason they have this extra money to pay stars like this is because they hit in the draft. The Bengals haven't hit enough in the draft. The Bengals hitting in the draft have put them at winning the division expectations, competing for Super Bowl playoffs expectations, but the draft has also let them down the last couple of years. Like, you needed to hit more. You needed to hit more on some of these so that you don't have to spend. That way, the money that you do have, you can go get bigger name players versus having to spread it out to plug a bunch of holes. The Chiefs, they need better playmakers. They need this, that, but they went ahead and rolled the dice. They've given Travis Kelce that extension. They love what they have on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they've moved on from the likes. They just moved on from who they lose that they ended up trading. L'Jarius Sneed. They lose Juwan Thornhill from the Super Bowl winning team 2 years ago. The Browns pick him up. Like, the bottom line, they're moving on from talented guys and replacing them with talented guys because they're drafting really well. Like, for the Bengals the Bengals Chiefs have been kind of neck and neck the last couple of years. But for the Bengals to remain on the Chiefs level, they have to. It's not play like the Chiefs. They have to draft like the Chiefs, and that's going to be the big thing. Maybe this draft was it. Maybe this draft was it. But for right now, it just seems 4 of the top 5 picks were all gambles as far as that's concerned. But so a couple of these came in the chat. By the way, I want to give a shout out for the super chat. By the way, a realtor named House Adam, I believe is his name, because it's not coming up the full name on here. But he goes, "You all are awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Love the super chats. Appreciate him sending that in." Let's see, what else did we get? Nate on YouTube goes, draft grades are stupid. Chiefs were given a C+ for Patrick Mahomes. A few years ago. I'm not big. I mean, you said it to start the show. I'm not big on draft grades either. But I don't know how. It's sometimes when you talk about giving grades, it's just a simplified way to bring everyone together to have a conversation about evaluating things. I'm not a draft aficionado. Either are you. Neither are listeners. But we know football. We understand it from a fan perspective, from an analyzing perspective, and we all have different opinions of how we feel about what they did, of course. But yeah, the Chiefs got a C or whatever for Patrick Mahomes, and yet they're all alive. They're all not even thinking about it, so who cares, right? But in the now, in the instant reaction, the first day coming out of the draft, this is what everyone's thinking and feeling, and we'll see who's right and who's wrong when it's all said and done.
Yeah, if you go back to that draft where Patrick Mahomes was taken by the Chiefs, I'm sure that a lot of people out there didn't think that Patrick Mahomes would turn out to be what he turned out to be outside of the people in Kansas City that scouted him and things of that nature. I think that when you look at draft grades, you probably need to be looking at like the college guys more. Like, what is the Nick Sabans of the world think? What are the Kirby Smarts of the world think? What is the Todd McShays? Those type of guys think of their potential at the next level. When we as football fans, or more importantly, NFL fans that really only watch Ohio State, you check out, the big Saturday night game, you look at what Michigan's got going on. You're not looking at all the teams across the country like, come on, man, it was Texas Tech. He played at Texas Tech, and they were terrible. Overall, they were terrible. He was great. I remember that game they had versus Oklahoma, him and Baker,
and forth.
up and down the field, 500 passing yards a piece and things of that nature. So, I think that the people that really watch the college game have more of a leg to stand on to give a grade about a player. And because a grade about a player isn't necessarily all about the player, it's about the situation that player is going into. I'm a firm believer that if Deshaun Watson was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs instead of Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson was put in that situation, or Josh Allen, I'm confidently saying that you're probably going to get the same outcome that you're getting right now. That system that they have in place for that quarterback and Patrick Mahomes, you get a very talented, smart quarterback, I think that's going to turn key. It's just as simple as, all right, there's just not a lot of those guys out there. Yeah. You put any of the elite level quarterbacks and you put them in Kansas City, I think they're going to produce just like him. So, like, it's all about where you go. And speaking about where you go, J.J. McCarthy has to be the luckiest guy in the world, or I'm just dead wrong, because he's going to the best situation out there. I know that Caleb Williams went number 1, and what the Bears got going on, very good. But nothing is better than what they got going on offensively than what the Minnesota Vikings got going on. So if and when JJ takes over the number 1 spot, he's going to be balling out of control. And there ain't nothing I'm going to be able to say about it. I'm going to just have to eat it.
Yeah.
But obviously, they know something I don't know. I think he's a cog in the wheel. But guess what? If he is just a cog in the wheel, throwing touchdowns left and right and hoisting the Lombardi one day, I'm gonna have to eat crow.
Yeah, and they didn't trade up, right? The Vikings didn't have to trade
No,
up
they
to
stayed
get
pat.
him. They stayed pat. So
I think they stayed pat.
So it's one of those, if they didn't have to give up any draft capital to get him, you're going to be, kicking yourself. Oh man, but it's only bad if you trade up, like what the Cardinals did, that year with Josh Rosen. Like that was, trading up to get Josh Rosen. You give up draft picks to get him, and then he doesn't work out either. But then rinse, cycle, repeat. Now, it all worked out. They end up getting Kyler Murray. They take Marvin Harrison Jr., by the way, Friday night or Thursday night, whatever the first night of the draft was. And, they're set up. I thought that they did a good job, too. They added a big piece on defense. The Cardinals had a very good draft.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, we'll talk about some of these other teams in the draft more coming up here in a bit. I want to take a look at the AFC North because the Ravens and the Steelers, Kev Nash's Steelers, had a very good weekend. We'll get to that coming up around the corner. So Drew Garrison says, I don't love the pick, but come on now. Now, this started a thing in the chat where did it go? Oh, now I don't see. Oh, Drew. Nate then says, Drew, call into the show and cook Kinner. I'm not really in my trolling mood today. I don't feel like I went in too hard on the Bengals. I think I bring up valid points too. I don't like, for instance, if you're the New England Patriots or you are one of these organizations that is known for winning and known for being a Super Bowl caliber franchise, if you're going to gamble like this, like if the Niners do this, now technically they haven't won Super Bowls, but they've been winning for a lot longer. If they're taking gambles on guys, I don't think people bat an eye. But for the Bengals to gamble the way that they did, I don't think they've earned that respect yet from around the league to say, oh, they know what they're doing. That's not a shot. That's the reality of it. Now, I get why that shot upsets you guys, but that's just the reality of it. And it is what it is. So we'll see what ends up happening, especially the gamble on the offensive linemen. They've drafted offensive linemen who have had way better tape, who were really, really good in college, who weren't maybe can't miss guys, but, you would have to work to make a miss. Jonah Williams, there's no reason technically that shouldn't have worked. It didn't work. Billy Price, there was a lot of people that wanted Billy Price coming out when he was coming out of college. That didn't work. He was bad. That did not work, not even a little bit. So this idea that I'm trolling or that I'm wrong for questioning a team who knows nothing about offensive linemen, can't draft them to save their life, they're going to take a gamble on a guy that has 8 starts, and you want me to believe that the Bengals did their homework. They know what they're doing. Y'all don't have to like what I say, but to cook me because you think I'm wrong. No, that's fine. You have your opinion, but you can call in 937-518-1410. But that's all. Like I said, I think it depended who would have taken him. The Steelers haven't had the best offensive line as of late either, but I do believe if the Steelers take a gamble on Mims, I don't think many people are questioning it. So many people are questioning the Mims pick because it's the one position that the Bengals are the absolute worst at drafting. That'd be like if the Patriots took a gamble on a wide, like if the if the Patriots take Burton, a lot of people are questioning that. Like, you don't know how to develop wide receivers, and now you're going to take a receiver that you need to develop and babysit. But the Bengals could develop wide receivers, obviously. So that's why I'm not batting an eye at that one as much, I guess. So there, it's a give and take.
I do think pure talent-wise, out of the teams in the AFC North, I think the talent that they acquired is number one.
Fair.
The pure talent, the upside, the talent, the potential, I think they are number one. As far as guys that I'm most confident about that are going to come in there and play right away and make an impact, I will go to Steelers. The team that I'm most questionable about, their draft, was the Baltimore Ravens. I don't like the Nate Wiggins pick.
Well, we want to get to the North?
Yeah, let's
want
do
to
it.
get to the North because the clock, like we're good on the clock.
Oh, okay.
Friday's clock was good, by the way. Not blaming you, I'm blaming me. Like Casey did a fantastic job with the clock. You know what he did? I'm rambling, and he put up one of these. He was putting up the signal, like, hey, like, go to break. Like he did his job. He did his job, and he helped me do mine. So, But no, the AFC North coming up. And you teased and you didn't even realize it, but I'm interested in that take because everyone's drooling over the Ravens draft. Everyone drooling over. I do love the receiver from North Carolina. That's the sneaky good one right there. That they just extended Bateman. If the Flowers thing, I think the issue that Flowers had in the beginning of the offseason, that's out. So the Ravens could sneakily have a very interesting trio of wide receivers in Baltimore, and they don't need a $15 million a year overrated wide receiver in OBJ to accomplish that. But nonetheless, so Drew Garrison says, I'm not at all defending the Mims pick. I just think you're going a little far on it. I just need you to just explain. That's all. I don't think what am I going too far on? But AFC North stuff coming around the corner. Shaw, thank you. The Vikings, they did trade up the one spot. They traded up just to move up one to get him. Dennis also messaging as well. Ron Howard says, what about the two Seminole defensive linemen going to the Rams? You're, Florida State guy.
Jared Verse from right here in Dayton, Ohio, got drafted to the Rams, and then they followed up by getting Fisk. I mean, go back and watch what they did after Jordan Travis broke his ankle. Look what they did against Florida. Look what they did in their ACC championship game versus Louisville. And you go look at what Louisville was doing all season long. They were running up and down the field scoring on teams. They couldn't do anything against that D line, and Fisk, and they controlled the whole thing. And I mean, obviously, Aaron Donald, Hall of Famer, one of the best ever to play on the D line. Not saying that these guys are going to be that, but like, hey, how do you replace a legend like that? You go ahead and get two very good guys and say, hey, man, if y'all can be half of what he is, we're in good shape.
Yep, and again, another team like that, too, that gives up a lot of draft picks. They have to hit on what draft picks that they do have, and they've done that. People have been throwing shade at the Browns for how, no first-round picks, but with the picks that they do get, I mean, you look at the defense, their defense, they've drafted half that defense. You look at, they've drafted half their roster, half their dominant players they've drafted. So say what you want about that, but I get that. But the Rams, those two picks could be huge, replacing that production, no doubt about it, at a fraction of the cost, by the way.
Yeah.
So there's that. Kidder and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio. We'll dive into the AFC North as a whole. How much did the AFC North improve? I see that Roger, all caps Roger, he says, typical Browns fan. Typical Browns fan. I'm here to tell you the Browns had the least impressive draft of everyone. I'm not this homer that y'all make me out to be. It wasn't, I don't think it was that great of a draft, if you ask me, as far as Cleveland's concerned. But, we shall find out. Kidder and Cap, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We'll be right back.
It's Kubota Orange Days. Shop the year's best selection of Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and utility vehicles, including the #1 selling compact tractor in the USA. And now, through June 30th, get 0% APR for 84 months and up to $2,500 off BX23S tractors. See the details at KubotaOrangeDays.com.
Stop by Columbus Equipment in Columbus, Dayton, or Toledo to see a full line of Kubota construction equipment. Or check us out online at ColumbusEquipment.com.
Frickers doubles your savings when you use the Frickers app. Frickers doubles your points on everyday value menu item. Monday, boneless frickin' chicken wings. Double points on the Frickers app. Tuesday, traditional frickin' chicken wings. Double points. Wednesday, sirloin steak. Double points. Thursday, frickin' chicken chunks. Double points on the Frickers app. When you download the Frickers app, you can even earn points by choosing delivery. Frickers mobile app now offers delivery. Everyday values, double points, and delivery, all by downloading the Frickers app. Your best value is always Frickers. Delivery participation and hours may vary by location.
If you need new roofing, siding or gutters, skylights or patio enclosures, if you're a homeowner or business and need someone you can trust, don't take a chance. Enhance with Lance. Lance Roofing and Siding has been satisfying customers since 1993 and hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. See Lance Roofing and Siding at their new location at 6903 Dayton Springfield Road in Enon. Call for a free estimate at 864-2722. That's 864-2722. Online at lanceroofing.com.
Dough and ooey gooey frosting? Are they the best part of every day? Probably not, but you get the idea. Get to Wendy's today and get the best part in every bite with the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Cinnabon is a registered trademark of Cinnabon Franchisor SPP, LLC.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ziprecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
Cordell Transportation has more advantages than ever before, including brand new equipment. That's right. Plus excellent pay, benefits, and a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Apply now at CordellTransportation.com. Cordell Transportation, driven to succeed.
Veterans, were you exposed to harmful burn pit smoke while serving overseas? The Department of Veterans Affairs has recognized and is providing benefits to veterans who suffer with asthma, rhinitis, and sinusitis as a result of burn pit exposure. If you served in the Southwest Asia Theater of Operations or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Syria, or Djibouti and suffer from any respiratory illnesses that you believe is a result of exposure to burn pits, contact the Montgomery County Veterans Service Commission at 937-225-4801.
Don't miss the best SpringFest deals right now at Lowe's. Get their best savings in store and online today. Visit Lowe's.com. Again, that's Lowe's.com. Because Lowe's knows spring, Lowe's knows savings.
Make sure you've liked and followed the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. Enter contests. Weigh in on the latest sports debates. Plus, you can watch Kinner and Kev weekdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, as if listening to them isn't bad enough. Now you can see them. Reds, Bengals, Browns, Buckeyes, and more. Follow the Justin Kinner Show on Facebook.
And we are back. Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We are off and rolling. All reaction, of course, to the NFL draft. And we've spent the majority of the hour already diving into the Cincinnati Bengals, but the AFC North as a whole. The AFC North as a whole, I mean, you can't be the best division in football unless you have teams that can draft well. Mm-hmm. And you know, we talk so much about free agency and cap space and what teams spend and all this and all that. But the thing is, you know, the Steelers have had a quarterback question mark for quite some time. Even in the last couple years of, Roethlisberger's career, there were still question marks. Is he still the guy? You know, what's the succession plan? What's there? You know, obviously with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, the contract dispute from 2 years ago. Last year was MVP season when you weren't worried about contract disputes and everything else. A fairly healthy season for him, all that fun stuff. So, you know, the Cincinnati Bengals emerging onto the Super Bowl contending scene with the drafting of Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Logan Wilson and company, and the Browns, you know, who enter, whether or not Deshaun Watson's played a role in them being in the mix the last couple of years. You know, it definitely turned the expectations around for Cleveland when they acquired Deshaun Watson in that major pick from a couple years ago. I know that the finalization of that trade is officially, you can close that door. I think the Texans won that, no doubt about it. But at the same time, I'm not a big fan of teams who wait to get their quarterback before they go all in. Sometimes I think teams need to go all in to maybe attract a quarterback to want to come to you at a certain degree as well. But say what you want, but Cleveland is not a stacked roster unless they do trade for Deshaun Watson. I don't think they don't go in the direction that they do if they don't acquire Deshaun Watson. So yes, the Texans won that. You'll never hear me say otherwise. But I also think that a healthy season from Deshaun Watson, we're maybe talking about that in a different light, or maybe not as lopsided as what it is right now. But a Super Bowl contender are the Cleveland Browns, whether you guys like it or not. But as far as the draft is concerned, I didn't think it was the best draft for Cleveland. I do think they've done a good job in recent years of maximizing the draft without a first-round draft pick. I like the Ohio State connection there with their first pick in the second round, all of that. Obviously, Baltimore is getting a lot of praise for theirs. The Steelers, you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. There's been a lot of change at the front office for you, for your Steelers organization. You could tell that there's been a change in philosophy and how they go about doing contracts and even trading for guys. I mean, talk about the two most aggressive things I've seen the Steelers do in recent memory is getting Russell Wilson, yes, but also doing the trade to get Justin Fields. I mean, to create a potential controversy there. That's very un-Steelers-like. But the Steeler way, they didn't abandon it, but they had to kind of change it up just a tad. And I think that's what happened with those 2 quarterback additions. But the more things change, the more they stay the same. Man, they love those trenches. And that's exactly where the Steelers, your Steelers, lived in the first couple rounds of the draft.
Man, what a great draft. What a great draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they were able to not only get the guys that they had an eye on, they didn't have to trade up to get them. They got the offensive tackle out of Washington. Now, say what you will about, Pac-12 football or Washington, about their performance in the championship game. That offensive line they won the award for best offensive line in the country. The 2 years prior, Michigan had won that. So if you get guys on that offensive line from Michigan, from a Georgia, from a Alabama, from the Washington football team that past season, I think you're doing something pretty good. They were able to get one of those guys to shore up the other tackle spot. They already got Broderick Jones in last year's first round. They had to trade up to get him. Then in the second round, you get the second best center on the board. So you got what you need. Now you go get a slot receiver like Roman Wilson that's able to come in there, and maybe he can play on the outside. I don't know, but maybe that's the possibility. But for me, outside of the offensive lineman, the biggest pickup for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson, I know a lot of people aren't watching a ton of ACC football if it's not Florida State or Clemson, but he played at NC State. Yes, I'm well aware that his knees are probably like Shaquille O'Neal's right now. He's walking on bone on one of his knees. But guess what? He can still play some football, and he ran a faster 40 time than a lot of wide receivers and running backs. And what they needed with the Pittsburgh Steelers was inside linebackers. So you not only addressed inside linebacker by free agency by getting Patrick Queen from the Baltimore Ravens, you made your team better by making their team worse.
Yep.
And then also got an inside linebacker in the draft for a very low cost. Not sure if he's going to start over Landon Roberts, but he's going to be in the mix. So I love the draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think all first 4 guys are going to be starters for the Pittsburgh Steelers, at least 3. Both offensive linemen. I think Roman Wilson ultimately will start at the slot receiver, and I know Peyton Wilson will be in the mix at the inside linebackers. I love what they did.
Yeah, you look at the Steelers, wide receiver room right now. I do like the Roman Wilson pickup. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, it's all about defense, the trenches, yes, but in today's NFL offensive mode, like we just got to move forward to just assuming that Russell Wilson could be Russell Wilson, and for Russell Wilson to be the best version of himself, he needs to have pass catchers, he needs to have playmakers, and obviously, Pickens going to be the guy, but right now, they've moved on from some talent recently too. Yeah. But if Wilson can come in and be a big time playmaker for them, I mean that adds a little bit of stability as far as the offense goes, assuming that Russell Wilson can be who he needs to be. You got some big guys up front. You added some depth on the defense. The pick that still surprised the pick that. What is the pick for you over the last 10 years for Pittsburgh that you thought for sure would work that didn't?
Devin Bush.
Thank you. That was going to be mine. That's the one
and
too.
To be fair with Devin Bush, he was a monster at Michigan. He was a monster his first year in the NFL, and then he messed up his knee, and he never got that explosiveness back. So, hey, who would have known what he would have been able to become if his knee didn't explode on him? So that's where I'm at with that. For Roman Wilson, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, what you're getting in him is a guy that is selfless and that is going to be willing to do the dirty work. Just go and look what he did at Michigan. It was a run-based offense. That's what this Pittsburgh Steelers team is going to be. You have for lack of a better word, a smaller speed receiver, but he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and block. He can stretch the field. He can make plays off script. You look at some of the scramble drills from J.J. McCarthy, he's the guy that he's looking for. And if that's what we're going to be doing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's a perfect fit.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports, all things NFL draft reaction. Of course, that chime, I'm sure you're still hearing it in your sleep if you watched all 3 days of the draft, no doubt about it. So the teams that got the highest praise for the draft of the AFC North were Baltimore and Pittsburgh. We recapped your team in Pittsburgh's draft, but Baltimore, I still think Tez Walker is quietly the pick that could change the fortunes of all the teams in the AFC North the most. I think that's the one right there, because they get Bateman back, who they just signed to the extension. Talking about Baltimore, obviously Zay Flowers, who was fantastic for them last year. The Ravens can go from being the laughingstock at wide receiver of the division to all of a sudden possibly having one of the best, as far as that's concerned. But I know it was more than just the Tez Walker pickup. I thought that was great for them to be able to pick him up that late in the draft. But overall, there's a pick that you're not as high on, their first-round pick that everyone's drooling over, the cornerback out of Clemson.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins. I'm not a fan of Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins is lighting the keister. He's 6'2", like a $175, playing cornerback, and he's coming to the most physical division in football.
And Jamar Chase and
yeah, like he has the speed, no doubt about it. He has the speed, and he's a pretty good cover guy. But in the AFC North, where it gets physical, with we could talk about the Cincinnati Bengals not having a great run game, but they're still a physical team. They run a ton of bubble screens, and you got to be a man to go out there and get around all that junk to go try to tackle one of those wide receivers. And you look at Jamar Chase, he's not Randy Moss, 6'4", all arms and legs. He's jacked. He's stout. He's built like a running back. You have to go up there and make a tackle. I don't think he is willing to do that. You look at his career at Clemson, he has not been willing to do that. Go back and look at the Florida State game. You look at that, he got trucked. He got trucked a lot in that game, and those are things that are going to be attacking him with. So I thought they were going to grab Cooper DeJean from Iowa. If he was the pick, I would be like, okay, this is an A+. But Nate Wiggins, I don't think he's it. Because, look at all their DBs. They're physical dudes that, tackle running backs. This dude ain't tackled a running back in 3 years at Clemson. I don't think that's a good pickup for them. As far as the pick, offensive tackle out of Washington, they grabbed him in the second round. He protected the other side of, the whole offense out there in Washington. And then, obviously, what you talked about with Tez Walker. I mean, Tez Walker, everybody knows his story over there in North Carolina, held out most of the season, and then came in and made a splash impact for them, for the Tar Heels. I think he only played 6-7 games and had 900 yards receiving. So he's had a speed receiver. You talk about a long, tall receiver. You're adding that to the mix for the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Tez Walker. I like the offensive lineman pick, but I do not like the Nate Wiggins pick.
Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube.
At Lowe's, save big every day when you buy in bulk. Save 10% on your choice of any 3 or more A.O. Smith water heaters. Plus, get an extra 5% off every day on eligible purchases when you use your Lowe's business credit card. Get low prices on the materials you need today, because Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location. While supplies last, discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. 5% offer subject to credit approval. Exclusions and terms apply. See store at Lowe's.com/credit for details. U.S. only.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide cleans better than the leading competitive free detergent, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues.
Plus, Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
Lowe's knows pros need the right tools for every job. That's why we sell the largest in-store selection of Klein tools anywhere. Find new items launching exclusively at Lowe's, like the self-leveling laser level for just $159.98. Plus, shop the Connect socket set for just $49.98. Get Klein tools in-store and online today. Because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
What's the room again?
1240, down at the end.
Ooh, what's that?
Sammy, don't touch that. That's someone's old food.
Here we are. Do you have the key?
You have both of ours.
Oh, right. Not working.
Rub it.
Come on.
Try flipping it over.
Seriously. Why can't we go inside? I'm tired.
Give me yours.
You have mine.
All right.
What?
Please, if you
Dad,
could just...
why aren't you opening the door?
Can everyone just shut the...
Don't go there. Go on a real vacation. Go RVing. Learn more at GoRVing.com.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? You need to call QC Kinetics today. Hey, it's Keith Byers. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideals like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain, from arthritis or injury? Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility, reclaim your independence, walk and run and play and live without the danger and trauma of surgery. And without harmful drugs. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. 937-936-0325.
Hey there, business ballers and entrepreneurs. Ready to make your financial dreams come true? Well, get ready to score big with SwishFunding.com, the slam dunk solution for all your business funding needs. Just like that satisfying swish when the ball goes in, SwishFunding.com guarantees you a seamless funding experience. Working capital, expanding your business, upgrading your equipment, or even covering payroll. If you have at least $25,000 in monthly revenue and been in business for at least 1 year, qualifying is easier than a layup. At Swish Funding, we fund up to $5 million in 24 hours. SwishFunding.com's team will guide you every step of the way. No more banking red tape, just quick, decisive action to get you back in the game. Head over to SwishFunding.com and slam dunk your financial goals today. Remember, it's not just a shot in the dark, it's a surefire swish. Go to SwishFunding.com. That's SWISH Funding.com. SwishFunding.com.
You want more Reds talk? Don't miss Wing Reds Weekly with Adam Campbell. Sunday nights at 6 p.m. right here on Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball. 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hour number 2, Justin Kinner, Kev Nash, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. We welcome you back. That's right, as you heard, we are Dayton's radio home of Cincinnati Reds baseball. The Reds back in action tonight, and yeah, you know, they always play really well out over on the West Coast.
West Side.
That's sarcasm, of course, but they do, you know, they have a couple games with San Diego coming up, so there's that. 9:40, a late one. 9:40, the first pitch. 9:10, coverage begins. Right here on 1410 ESPN Radio, here on a Monday. First hour, all NFL draft reaction, of course, and we still have more draft reaction coming because I felt like, you know, we touched on so much. A lot of Bengals, AFC North, of course. You know, we talked about Devin Bush a little bit ago. That was a pick when the Steelers got him. I was ticked. I was like, there you go. The Bengals wanted him too. And I think, didn't the Steelers trade up? I think the Bengals were about to take him.
Yeah,
then the Steelers traded up to the pick in front of them.
traded up. Yeah, I can look up exactly what they did.
I think it was 12, and they traded up to 11. I think the Bengals were sitting at 12 or 11, and they traded up to 10 or 11 or something. But, yeah, they moved up to the pick right before the Bengals. And, see, Devin Bush is always an example of, I don't like when it's always tough to evaluate picks because, like, that was the right pick.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the right pick for Cincinnati. It was the right pick for Pittsburgh. It didn't work out. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, so are you a bad organization or the Bengals have been a bad organization? Like, that's just one of those weird things. Like, there's a lot of guys that people line up to get, and they don't work out.
Right.
I highly doubt Pittsburgh wasn't utilizing him correctly. Let's just
I mean,
you know, that's one of those weird picks that I'm always like, that's why I hate evaluating some stuff because sometimes you either have it or you don't, and you had it in college. Sometimes you may not have it for the pros, but you did allude to the injury.
Yeah, so they traded up to the 10th spot to grab him. But, I mean, you go back and look at his highlights, and you go look back and look at his first-year stats with the Steelers. I mean, there's splash plays, there's interceptions, there's forced fumbles, there's fumble recoveries. And then the next year, his second year, he messes up his knee. Yeah. And he's never the same player. I mean, now he's bounced around. I want to say he went to Seattle. Now he's with the Browns. I mean, he just doesn't have the explosiveness that he used to have. And that was like his biggest attribute was like, hey, man, I can move sideline to sideline. I can cover in space. I can get around these screens because I'm fast. And once he became, a bulky linebacker because he put on weight because he was unable to do any type of cardio activity, like he just became a liability, especially in coverage.
Yeah, and again, that's what also set up the Jonah Williams pick for the Bengals. So, the Bengals were definitely going to take him. I think it was Drew. Where did he go? Oh, Drew Garrison. So Drew Garrison says the Bengals were supposed to get Devin Bush. I was so confident that my now wife pre-bought me the number 1 draft pick jersey. I wound up with the Jonah Williams jersey that I never wore. So there's that as far as that's concerned. But, a lot of interesting things happened at the draft. Whether it be first, second, third, seventh round, didn't matter. But I think the one thing that has every year, there's just that one move in the draft, regardless of the team, whether it's your team or not, that just makes you scratch your head. And that award has been awarded to, obviously, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
And Casey and I talked about this on the show on Friday, and I was just adamant. There's not one good excuse out there to justify doing what they did. I did hear their justification for it, and I'm not willing to change sides and say that they are right. But I don't think it's as crazy as what everyone's making it out to be. I just think that you are either in a win-now mode or you're not. And when you have a top 10 pick, you have a pick as high as that, and you have a chance to get a wide receiver as good as Adunze and some of those guys, and you pass up on them to take a quarterback that maybe won't play for the next – we talked about it the other day. I said if Michael Penix Jr. sits back – let's say Kirk Cousins is good enough to finish out his 3-4 year contract, that when Michael Penix Jr. takes over, he will be older than when Brandon Weeden was drafted by the Browns.
The Weed Man.
So I'm just saying that's a pretty wild move or decision by the Falcons. Their justification, Kev, was that, look, with Kirk Cousins, we are going to be a team that on a bad year is still picking anywhere between 15 to 32.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get a Michael Penix Jr. in that situation if things start to go south. So right now we are in a situation where we have a potential franchise quarterback that we can select, that we do not anticipate being in position to select moving forward because we're going to win games with Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be good. So this is kind of a pick for the hopefully way, distant future. But at the same time, so did that change your view at all? Because I kept saying there's not one good reason out there to make it. I was like, well, I don't have to like the reason, but they did have a reason. I still don't agree with it. I think it was kind of ballsy, to be honest with you. But they made it. They take Michael Penix Jr. I don't know if it changed my mind completely, but I'll at least say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it a 4 as far as justification is concerned. Doesn't mean it was the right move. Don't like it. That's a thumbs down.
That's a major thumbs down. And people that know me and have been rocking with the show since I've been on, know I'm a huge Michael Penix fan. I desperately wanted Michael Penix to land with the Minnesota Vikings because I'm a fan of his, and I think him in that offense, home run shots to Addison and Justin Jefferson, I thought his career could go to the next level. I hate this for him. I hate this for the Atlanta Falcons fans, and obviously I hate it for their players. I mean, not to say that, like, oh, man, Kirk Cousins deserves some type of heads up or anything like that. Like, he just showed up on that team. He's not like a Tom Brady with that organization or Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers where, like, hey, man, he's earned the right to have things run past him, or Patrick Mahomes or even a Joe Burrow for that case, that, like, all right, man, we're going to run this past our starting quarterback. I just think that it's a goofy move. I think it's a goofy move when – in essence, when they're picking, no defensive players have gone off the board, and they are in desperate need of defensive players. So you could look at it from an aspect of they had the number 1 pick. They had their pick of any defensive player out there. They could have got the rush in out of Alabama. They could have got Verse. They could have got anybody on the defensive side of the ball to get on that team and help them, get over the hump because you already have a quarterback in place. But from our perspective, I'm sure people have heard, the why they hate it and why they don't like it and stuff like that. I want to attack this from a different spot. I think this speaks to the draft class coming out next year. I think this speaks to they don't think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be like that guy. I think this speaks to they don't think Quinn Ewers is going to be that guy. I think this speaks to they don't think Carson Beck is going to be like that guy, that they were willing to go ahead and say, we want Michael Penix because those guys in next year's draft, they're not it. We think you're going to be it. So I think this speaks to next year's draft class that says, hey, man, those guys are going to be okay, but I think this guy is better than the guys that are coming out next year.
Yeah, and it's sounding like I'm defending them. I am not. I'm speaking to their mindset. That I don't think it's the worst mindset. It just doesn't. It wasn't right though. It's because it's that mixed message thing. We talked about it with the Bengals earlier. We're not trading T. Higgins because we're in win now, but we're going to draft an offensive lineman that only has 8 starts, and we're drafting a position that we are atrocious at drafting. Like, I still think that's the second worst decision of the draft. I'm still adamant about that from my side.
I think you should start using the word develop. Because all those guys that they drafted were high on the board. And I think that all those other guys out there, if they went to somebody else, it would have been a perfect fit. I just think we should start using the word develop.
That's fair, because Frank Pollock, though, he was involved in some of these, too. Like, Frank Pollock was supposed to be this savior that was supposed to come save the Bengals offensive line. And, they've spent $40 million on that offensive line, and it's still not the most buttoned up for a guy that you would think, if he's supposed to be a savior, he would button up that offensive line for significantly less than $40 million, and even with the $40 million, still not very buttoned up. Mm-hmm. But so, anyways, I didn't mean to make it about the Bengals, but I referenced the Bengals because the mixed messaging of we're in win now mode, but you didn't make a pick based on win now. You said the draft was about winning now. That wasn't a win now pick, and that's the same thing with the Falcons. Well, that's not a win now pick. No, you referenced those quarterbacks coming out in next year's draft. Well, those quarterbacks, are going to be in that draft, and maybe those are good quarterbacks, but the Falcons also look at their roster where we won't be in position to draft those quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. But you could trade up and grab them, all that type of stuff. Also, I know, let's see, Adam Selzner on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page says Atlanta did have higher needs beyond taking their future quarterback. Yes, but the quarterback position is the hardest to get right and the most crucial. So if you feel like that guy you're not going to get that type of opportunity to draft that kind of quarterback moving forward, I understand why they did it. I still don't like it as far as that's concerned. We talked about the hit rate of a lot of those positions, and all of that. And a lot of the defensive players are at the bottom of the hit rate when it came to the success rate of the first-round picks. Quarterbacks, surprisingly, a little bit higher. It's about that 50-50. So you have a 50% chance that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be effective for you at some point, to where a lot of the position needs that they were significantly less on the hit rate based on the numbers from the 2000 draft to now, or 19 or whatever. But yeah, it's still very, very goofy. And here's why. And if the Niners make that decision, we say, okay. The Eagles make that decision. Pittsburgh makes that decision. The Ravens, we question it. Maybe don't like it, but we give that. When you're an organization like the Bengals and you're an organization like the Falcons or the Browns and others or the Jaguars, you don't have respect. People don't respect you. They're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. That's why the Bengals, so many people mocked their pick. That's why people are mocking the Falcons. I do think the pick itself I think who made the decision is worse than the actual decision, because I think there's franchises out there we would trust to make that decision if we got that justification. I just don't think the Falcons are good enough to do that yet.
I love the player. I like the fit. The thing that I'm hung up on, timing. Yeah. Timing. You just gave Kirk Cousins a whole bunch of money.
$100 million guaranteed.
Big money bag. Shouts out to Kirk Cousins, man. Shouts
that
out
agent,
to him,
dude, the real MVP.
OG, triple OG at the bank. But it is because you look at what Minnesota's got going on with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. Sam Darnold is a bridge quarterback to J.J. McCarthy. But you look at his contract and you look at the contract that Kirk Cousins has, he's the bridge quarterback. That's a lot of money for a bridge quarterback. But, if you look at it from this perspective, and I'll try to defend them and play devil's advocate, that, hey, man, you want a bridge quarterback that's going to win you some games, or you want a bridge quarterback that's trash? Obviously, Kirk Cousins is going to win you a lot of games. He always wins games. He's not a trash quarterback. Yeah. So, like their GM said, hey, man, we're not going to be picking this high because we got Kirk Cousins. And he's right. They're going to be picking, in the 18, 19, 20 range for the next 2-3 years, because Kirk Cousins, that's what he does. They win a lot of games. They got a lot of talent around him. I just think, hey, man, you could have used all that money on Kirk Cousins to get more free agents on defense and draft a young quarterback like a Michael Penix Jr., or draft a young defensive player in that spot that you got Michael Penix Jr., because there was a lot of questions about where Michael Penix was going to go. Some was late first round. Maybe you could have traded back up to grab him later. I know he was connected to the Raiders a lot. So maybe you could have drafted a defensive player and gave up some picks for next year and then grabbed them, do a 2-for-1 situation. It's just the fact that Kirk Cousins got all that money like a month and a half ago, and now like, all right, yeah, we're thinking about our future right here, right now.
Yeah, and Shaw says he got $292 million. No, I know that, Shaw. It was the $100 million guaranteed. It was just such a rich contract with a lot of guaranteed money in there as far as that's concerned. One more aspect of this that I don't think it's the end of the world for the Falcons, because let's say Cousins has a good year, but they are blown away by Michael Penix. Let's just say it's a Chiefs situation. Alex Smith was very, very good for the Chiefs. Kirk Cousins could be very, very good for the Falcons. Different situation. Smith was not given a $292 million contract with $100 million guaranteed, but they could move on from Alex Smith. They could still move on from Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
The best case scenario for the Falcons is Michael Penix Jr. blows them out of the water in practice and camp and everything, throughout this season, and then next year they move on from Kirk Cousins. And guess what? Teams will line up and they will will trade for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins will be a commodity around the NFL, assuming he doesn't have a major drop off as far as that goes. You talked about the Vikings where you wanted Michael Penix to go. The team I really wanted him to go to was Seattle. That was, Minnesota would have been great for him too. Seattle would have been another fascinating one, very similar to Minnesota as far as weapons galore. Obviously Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously, DK and all them. So nonetheless, interesting overall. But
the crazy thing, another part about it is obviously he's coming off an injury, a major injury. So like we don't know like how well he's recovering, if he's going to be ready to start the season. Like there's a major injury possibility reoccurring with that as well. But the team that's getting no blowback, and the Falcons are getting all the blowback because they have the Kirk Cousins and they made this pick of Michael Penix Jr. You want to talk about a reach. I know you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and, overdrafted with Mims and Mims only having so many starts. Well, the guy that has 1 billion starts in college is Bo Nix, and he went number 12 to the Broncos. Look, man, and it's probably unfair.
You're not a Bo believer. I've been sensing that for a while.
Look, man, I watch a ton of college football, and I'm not a draft analyst, but I know what I see, man, and it's probably wrong of me, but I can't get Bo Nix, how he played at Auburn, out of my mind. At 3 years at Auburn, he was horrible. Overall, just not a good quarterback. Very good his first senior year at Oregon. Outstanding his last senior year at Oregon. But in the biggest game, the two biggest games for them, versus Washington, he got outplayed by Michael Penix Jr., and he made some bad throws, and is a whole bunch of bubble screens. Bubble screen, rail shot, bubble screen. He's not doing what, other quarterbacks are doing. He's not making progressive reads down the field. He's not making deep in-cut throws. He's not making out throws. It's bubble screen, deep ball. Bubble screen, deep ball. And there's a reason why his number one receiver, Jonathan Franklin, wasn't taken to, I want to say, like the 5th or 6th round, because he didn't run any routes. He ran bubble screens and streaks. He can't run the route tree. This is the NFL, not college. So, I'm not sure why, the Bo Nix thing is just flying under the radar. Like, hey, man, more power to you, Bo. Go in there and prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I hope you prove me wrong. I want all these dudes that I don't think are going to be that good in the league prove me wrong. Nate Wiggins, prove me wrong. Go ahead and get a pick 6 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers and rub it in my face. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm going for that too.
But the Bo Nix thing, for me, that blows the Michael Penix Jr. one out the water. I don't see that working out well.
So 6 quarterbacks going in the first round. Pretty wild. How about the draft, Kev? 700,000 people in attendance over the 3-day span of the draft. A record.
What up, though, Detroit?
That's pretty wild as far as that's concerned. Another successful draft, no doubt about it. And now you let the dust settle. There's another wave of free agency coming. And we just kind of sit back. I love that the NFL has, you look at the events calendar for the NFL. The cool part about that is they have so much stuff coming up. I love that they've turned the schedule release into a big deal. I love, as a sports talk radio show host, I love the schedule reveal. Then you're going to get people like Kev, and you're going to get people like Bob in Riverside who would tell, you don't know. You don't know. Let us have our content. Let us have our content. Let us speculate. Let us have fun with the schedule release.
I should be hype about it because, I do co-host a sports show with you, but I just be coming on here we'll see.
You need to let the host in a little bit more.
I can't help it.
You can't help it. But nonetheless, the schedule release is always a good time. So that's coming up.
We already know who they're playing.
The second wave of free agency. Oh, but when they play matters. When they play matters.
It does.
Especially
I can't lie.
Ask Cincinnati. I think that, most, and to a certain extent, yes. But, like, Cincinnati's going to pay attention to the first month of the season, who they play. Oh, man. Okay, those teams, that'll allow us to get off to our typical crappy September start. Oh, okay, cool. But nonetheless. The Bo Nix thing, wild. Again, his numbers were wild, but, he did play Colorado. So, you're not going to be playing Colorado every single week, but he might be all right. But, like, a lot of these guys might be all right. The bottom line is only 1 to 2 of these quarterbacks in the first round is actually going to make it.
And to your point about teams building up their team before they get the quarterback, you look at what the Bears did with Caleb Williams before he even showed up. Look at all those guys. And then not only that, they also added Rome to that. You look at what the Minnesota Vikings have with J.J. McCarthy now. You go look at what they got going on in Denver. Come on, man. Come on. Like, he's destined to fail. And you know what? I'm going to come on here when he plays bad. Like, see, I told you. But the reality is, like, hey, man, look at what's around him.
Fair.
There's nothing around him. And you go look at Washington. There's nothing around Jaden Daniels. You got Terry McLaurin and me and you running that routes for them. Like, that's not fair. That's not fair to bang on the player when they turn out bad. Like, oh, see, you suck. Well, look at Caleb Williams. He's balling. Well, look at all the stuff they gave him to start out with.
So, the wide receivers that he's working with, okay? The wide receivers that he's working with. We're talking about Cortland Sutton, who, by the way, has been on the – be surprised if he is a Bronco to start the season. Now, you might have to look at this and say, okay, we need something in Denver. All right, but Cortland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, Marvin Mims Jr., their tight end is Adam Troutman, Dayton Flyer. I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of Adam. I think he's done a very good job. It's hard to survive in the NFL. And here he is all these years later. We had him on the show. That was the 20 draft. Yeah, that was the Burrow draft. We had him on the show the next day after he was drafted or whatever. He was drafted by the Saints originally, which, by the way, the Sean Payton connection, that's what that goes back to.
Mm-hmm.
As far, Sean Payton's always been a big fan of Adam Troutman. So, cool nonetheless, as far as that's concerned. But, yeah, Broncos roster, not really,
And when he throws a pick six, if Bo Nix do another pick six, well, who's he throwing to, man?
Yep.
And Jaden Daniels, okay, they got McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Eckler, okay. They got Brian Robinson. So I hope y'all going to be a heavy run team.
I'm higher on Washington's weapons than you are. The Eckler thing with, of course, having McLaurin.
Yeah,
he's not Bo Nix.
Yeah. You're right.
And he's better than Bo Nix, so he should be able to, like, overcompensate that. Bo Nix, like, you need to give him more. And, I'm not defending Denver, but I don't even know what the free agent wide receivers that are left, but no one's going to come in and save the day as far as that goes. And, we shall see when it's all said and done. But, all right, Kinner and Cab, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. The Brock Bowers situation was an interesting one. We talked with Jason Fitz, who's a big Raiders fan last week. He was a big fan of Brock Bowers, but, who the hell's going to be throwing the ball to him? Obviously, I know, O'Connell, the quarterback, whatever, but
that's not even the biggest thing for me is they got Michael Mayer last year. So you got the best tight end last year, and now you get the best tight end this year. I know teams are going to this, tight end heavy situation. You're going to be out here running the Patriots offense back when they had Gronk and Hernandez. If so, more power to you.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, they just need a Tom Brady. So all you got to do is just go out and get a Tom Brady, and everything will be fine.
You got Devontae Adams.
So Devontae Adams is a glut for punishment, dude. Like, demand the trade out of there. He must really love Vegas, dude. What happens in Vegas, he stays in Vegas. Like, whatever happens in Vegas, it's keeping him in Vegas as far as that's concerned. But, yeah, you're right. Michael Mayer. They even added Harrison Bryant, and Harrison Bryant's not a starting caliber tight end, but he's a very good tight end. Cleveland made him work. If Cleveland can make Harrison Bryant work, that's what I mean. Like that's your third tight end as far as that's concerned. If you're the Las Vegas Raiders,
so I'm looking at the Raiders, and I probably am off base by bashing on them. You have an inline blocker who can block and run routes in Mayer. Bowers is more of a receiving tight end. So you have that. Jacoby Myers is decent. Obviously, Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in the league. I'm looking at that offense. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's not what the Broncos are. But, you got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. They're going to be hovering around. I'm sensing basically what the Colts did last year with the Raiders this upcoming year. They're going to be hovering around, hanging around to week 17, 18, and then the wheels fall off.
Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Casey McAllister says, I love my wife. She does everything for me. I have a feeling Casey asked his wife, hey, I got to go do something real quick. Can you sit here? Because he's producing the show for us today. I have a feeling that his wife is sitting down manning the computer for him while he runs off to use the restroom or something. So,
hey, how you doing?
Casey's wife, hope you're doing well. We're going to see if she knows how to send us to break. So we'll be right back. Kenner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Don't go anywhere.
ESPN 1410 Wing AM weather.
Our forecast: showers and a low of 60 tonight. Chance of rain and then partly sunny and 75 tomorrow. And on Wednesday, sunshine and 82. I'm Rick Schrepp for 1410 ESPN Radio.
Oh, honey, it's our favorite leaf filter trusted pro, Matt. Matt, come in.
Hi, Mrs. Sparks. You wanted me to stop by? Is everything okay with your leaf filter gutter protection system?
Okay, of course, silly. We wanted you to stop by for dinner as our way of thanking you.
Yes, to thank you for that free gutter inspection, the free estimate, and what was the other thing?
That lifetime guarantee.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. Sparks, those are just Leaf Filter's policies. Everyone who calls Leaf Filter gets a trusted pro to come out for a free gutter inspection and estimate. And every Leaf Filter installation comes with a lifetime guarantee.
So it's not just us?
No, sir. We don't want anyone to worry about clogged gutters ever again.
You mean everyone gets this level of service?
Everyone. They just need to visit leaffilter.com/listen to schedule their free inspection.
Okay, but you must be starving. You work so hard.
Ready to love your gutter protection as much as we do? Visit leaffilter.com/listen and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plan starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy real estate as is fast for cash. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000. I buy vacant properties, inherited homes, divorce situations, death in the family. I even buy my tenants won't pay me the rent houses. Give us a call today for an all-cash offer at 614-470-2000, 614-470-2000.
The smarter way to clean your floors. It's time to make the swap. Swiffer Power Mop.
Introducing the new Swiffer Power Mop, the all-in-one tool that gives you a mop and bucket clean in half the time. The solution's built right in, so no heavy bucket, and the pad has hundreds of scrubbing strips to get deep into grout. Don't mop harder, mop smarter.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
Shop our best savings of the season during SpringFest at Lowe's. Right now, save on Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil. Get 5 bags for just $10. And buy 2 select paints and exterior stains and get 1 free via Lowe's gift card rebate. Shop in-store and online today because Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/1. Stay Green offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Paint offer while supplies last. Excludes paint and stain samples. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowe's.com/rebates for details.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Allies Tax Relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? You need to call QC Kinetics today. Hey, it's Keith Byers. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideals like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility, reclaim your independence, walk and run and play and live without the danger and trauma of surgery. And without harmful drugs, call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. 937-936-0325.
1410 ESPN Radio gives you 5 straight hours of local sports talk every weekday. Don't miss Off the Bench with Trace Fowler at 1 p.m., followed by the Kinner and Kev Show from 3 to 6 p.m. The best local sports talk in the Miami Valley, right here on 1410 ESPN Radio and on the iHeartRadio app.
The Kansas City Chiefs, Kev, gave a 2-year extension to Travis Kelce, who is now the highest paid tight end in football. Darren Waller was the previous highest paid tight end in football, and that was at $17 million. I'm sure the numbers have come out. I just haven't scrolled to see what it was. I just have the list of highest paid tight ends in football right now. By the way, this is why, when we had Jay Morrison on and others, when we talked about, man, what do you do if Bowers is there at 18? Do you take him? And he was adamant, just based on the history of the Cincinnati Bengals, recent history, especially, they don't value the tight end position. And not valuing that position is bad business, in my opinion, because when you look at Travis Kelce, you look at George Kittle, okay, you look at Mark Andrews, you look at, these big-time tight ends that are giving you big-time production, they are as important as a Jamar Chase. They are as important as a Devontae Adams, and you go down the and the thing is, you can get a Travis Kelce for $18 million a year, who is as important as Jamar Chase is to the Cincinnati Bengals. And guess what you're going to spend on Jamar Chase? $33 to $35 million. Guess what the Bengals are getting? The equivalent of out of their tight end, that is $18 million. So that to me, Kev, is why I think teams who don't find teams with expensive quarterbacks. That is why you're seeing the trend in the continuing to value the importance of the tight end, because you're getting big time pass catchers and playmakers for $10 to $12 to $15 million cheaper than the best wide receiver playmakers. That's why Cincinnati, at some point, they have to stop doing this. Oh, we're too good for a tight end. It's not that you're too good for a tight end. It's just good business. If you have to pay Jamar, you better find a tight end that you can really value, because that's your 1-2 punch right there. That's your 1-2 punch. If you have to spend $33 million on Jamar Chase, another $15 million on a tight end, and now you have the $90 million a year into those three, that's better than having to pay $110 to $115 million for 3 players. It just makes sense. That's why it doesn't surprise me that the Chiefs did this with Travis Kelce, who, by the way, I just got weird retirement vibes from him last year, and interesting decision, a move nonetheless. He's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Run it back. Who did you think the Bengals were going to draft on Thursday at pick 18?
So at 18, I need to pull up what was behind them at that, because to be fair, the one reason I have been critical of their pick, right? But the one thing that was interesting about that is all of their heavy hitters, when you look at their draft board, or when you look at Jay Morrison and all the guys that covered them, when you look at the guys that they were talking about of mocking to there, all of them were taken. Mm-hmm. All of them were taken. Byron Murphy was one that they really, really wanted. I know that was crucial early on. You look at the fact that, who took the offensive lineman? Where are we going with Latham? The Titans go there get the guy from Alabama. A lot of the guys that they were looking at, I do think Bowers. I wanted Bowers at 18 because I wanted to see what the Bengals were going to do. They got bailed out. I wanted to see what would happen if he was sitting there, if they would take him or not. A lot of Bengals fans wanted him to, as far as that's concerned. So you look at some of the picks behind, you look at the edge rusher that the Rams got, Jared Verse, of course. You look at the guard that, the Steelers took. Obviously, they didn't need to go, that route, or maybe they did. I don't know. But like the Brian Thomas route is where I would have liked to see them go. Jason Fitz, when we had him on, he lit up about that. To me, gambling on a guy with 8 starts at offensive line versus getting a big-time playmaker like that in Thomas. Now it doesn't seem as big a deal because they ended up, getting, the wide receiver that they got later on with the character issues. They gambled on him nonetheless, but getting Burton there kind of compensates for that. But again, you get a wide receiver with no character issues. You're not gambling on that. I think that would have been the safer, better pick if they would have gone Thomas in the first round because all their other pieces were taken. It's not like they would have taken him over a defensive player or anything like that. I would have taken Thomas if I was the Bengals with that first-round pick.
I agree 1,000,000%. I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought they were going to go with Brian Thomas. History has shown us that they go with the offensive playmaker. When the debate was there between Jamar Chase and Penny Sewell, they went with Jamar Chase. I thought that they 1,000,000% were going to go with Brian Thomas. And that would have been scary hours for us. We don't expect Demarius Mims to be a starter right off the bat for the Cincinnati Bengals, so why wouldn't you go ahead and get another offensive weapon? And you also got to think, like Brian Thomas Jr., he's a big receiver just like a T. Higgins. So when T. Higgins moves on next year, boop, you just drop him right back into that spot. Like their comps are identical. So I thought that's what they were going to do. And, just speaking from my Pittsburgh Steelers perspective, I'm glad it didn't.
Yep. And now you have guys who are listening right now saying, but it doesn't matter because they went out and they get Burton. Burton, again, you get Thomas, you're getting a super talented receiver just like Burton out of college, but now you don't have to worry about the culture fit. Now you're worrying about the culture fit with Burton. Burton, who didn't respect Nick Saban. Burton, who didn't respect, obviously, Georgia and their quarterback with quarterback, their head coach Kirby Smart. I almost said Nick Kirby, by the way. That's why I was stuttering there because I'm like, Nick Kirby. Hold on, that ain't it. I knew it was Kirby, but Kirby Smart. You think he's going to respect Zach Taylor? What's going to happen when you look at a Kirby Smart and you look at a Nick Saban, and they're telling you what to do, and you have attitude issues with them? The 2 stories of him walking out in the middle of practice after Nick Saban lit his ass about something. Mm-hmm. That's Nick Saban. What's he going to do when little Zach, hey, if you don't mind, can you maybe cut a little harder on that? He's going to laugh his ass off off that field, man. I'm just saying. No, I like the Burton pick. I'm not going to walk that back. It just don't say, oh, well, they got Burton, so it's fine. No, it's still a gamble when you could have had Thomas and not had to worry about that type of stuff. When it's all said and done. So
for me, with the Burton selection with the Bengals, I think that, for lack of a better word, he'll be on his best behavior because he is a rookie and he is coming into this league kind of a la, Antonio Brown. Like Antonio Brown didn't go full Antonio Brown until much later in his career. Once he got several contract extensions, once he became the best receiver in the NFL, that's when you saw like him go, full AB. So I think that's a lot of the guys that have, quote-unquote, character issues or whatever. Like, when they have to, quote-unquote, be good, they are good. They're all humble, and then once they become the man, then they just got to go haywire. So I don't foresee any problems with Jermaine Burton, at least the first 2 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. Year 3, when he's catching 12 touchdowns and all that type of stuff, going for 1,500 yards, that following year when it's time to get paid, that's when the issues will pop up, in my opinion.
Alex Gatto, if I mispronounced your name, I apologize, man. But Alex Gatto on the Chatterbox Sports YouTube page says, if we would have drafted Thomas at 18, I would have thrown a bitch fit. Way bigger holes than going for LSU's number 2 wide receiver. Alex, my only rebuttal to that is, so hold on real quick. Alex,
17 touchdowns. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and on top of that, look, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were teammates. Would you have said that? The Bengals took the number 2 wide receiver for there. So just like, I think that worked out pretty well, taking LSU's number 2 wide receiver. The number 2 wide receiver for LSU seemed to work out pretty good as far as that's concerned for your team. No, Alex, in all seriousness, though, you say that's fine that you would not have liked the Thomas pick, but the Thomas pick would have been better than an offensive lineman who only has 8 starts, drafted by an organization who has not proven that they can draft and develop, as Kev said earlier, offensive linemen. So that, as far as that's concerned, that's where I would give pushback. So Nate also on YouTube says he has all the potential in the world and is going to be in the best position possible with the culture that the Bengals have and require of all their players. Bengals shouldn't have drafted I don't even know what he said, but can we stop? Like, it's the best culture possible. Possibly, maybe. I don't even know what that means with the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, culture, like he's going into a locker room where you have the number 2 wide receiver on the team who doesn't want to be there. You have the number 1 wide receiver who's about to, I'm giving it time. Let's wait to see where this negotiation goes. I mean, I'm not 1,000,000% confident that that's going to go smoothly. We asked Jay Morrison on last week. Do you think that T. Higgins, a wide receiver that doesn't want to be there, do you think T. Higgins is going to be as adamantly protective of the culture of the Bengals locker room when he knows that this ain't my culture, this ain't my locker room? I'm out of here after this year anyway, so why does it matter? He won't be a disruption. But then, that's he's going to be in it for him, as he should be. He has to look out for himself. He's already having to eat it going into this year, 21.5. No one feels bad for him, but the longevity of the contract. Jamar, we've seen when things don't go well for the Bengals, Jamar gets a little mouthy. Jamar gets a little testy, right? It's not disruptive, but it's borderline. It could be, we saw last year, he was getting a little, telling the Bengals how they needed to handle the Burrow situation, how they needed to run the offense. Not a huge deal. I'm not really down on that, but it opens up that door. And to Kev's point, Burton will not be a distraction this upcoming season. But look how good of a person T. Higgins is. He's handling this contract dispute very well. He's going to show up and play, right? So Burton, how does he handle that? An immature player, if he feels he should be paid and the Bengals don't want to pay him, let's say he is the legitimate number 2 replacement to T. Higgins. Well, when it's time to pay you, they're not going to pay you. How are you going to handle that? Like, those are the things. Sometimes it's not, the locker room fit right away. It's the locker room fit big picture. Do we see you growing into a locker room leader?
Right.
I don't know if you have those intangibles that Jamar and T. Higgins have as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, every team should want their disgruntled player to respond like T. Higgins is responding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I'm not going to get paid, but I would like to get traded. Like, he's not doing push-ups and sit-ups in the driveway. You know what I'm saying? For a disgruntled player, T is handling it the absolute best way as a fan, as an organization, as you would want. Like, he's not happy, but he's here. Like, he's showing up, so I guess everything's fine, right? He knows he's not going to be here. He's going to play out the string. And I also believe to the culture part, culture is about the team, the guys in the locker room. And if he wasn't cool with, Joe and the rest of his teammates, I think it would be a total different reaction from T. Higgins. Like, if he wasn't getting along with his teammates, I don't think he would be, quote unquote, as cool about this as he currently is being.
Yeah. And, the trade request is about, that's part of the negotiation process as well. Nate says T wants to be here. He also wants his money. He doesn't want to be here. He wants to leave. He asked to leave because of the money. But I know what Nate's saying. It's not that, look, he wants to be a Bengal. He wants to be paid to be a Bengal. They're not paying him to be a Bengal because of the asking price, so therefore he wants out. It's all on how you twist it, and I'm always going to twist it differently than you, Nate. That's just how it works. But we're talking about the Raiders a little bit ago, and Jerry, Raider fan Jerry, calls in. Gentlemen, you're talking my Raiders, so I have to call in. So, Jerry, you are off to the races, sir. Jerry. Well, he said he was in a hurry, and I get a little windy. I get a little windy. We got to let our guy Shaw on. Shaw, welcome. How are you? Can you believe the Bengals, they got a guy that, has so many issues and so many question marks as far as character. I mean, I can't believe that they signed a guy that knows his team's cheating and is sitting back and just doing nothing about it. I can't believe the character issues that Jenkins has.
You mean the first pick? Is that who you're talking about? The Sims kid from Georgia?
Relax, Shaw. I mean, my gosh, did you seem a little sad coming out of the weekend. No, the Jenkins pick, that's actually my favorite pick. That's my favorite pick of the Bengals. What?
I said, I'm great. I had 13 guys drafted. I'm fine. Which is
not 20, huh? Not 20 like Coach Harbaugh predicted, huh?
Oh, man.
Well,
and those guys were so good. Those guys were so good. He only drafted one of them.
I mean, you can't get them all. I mean,
I'm just saying. I mean, what happened to the other 7?
You can't sit there and trade your whole capital because you want to draft all your boys from college.
He could have undrafted free agents. I'm just
the undrafted free agent should have never even entered the draft. But that's another conversation for another day.
I'm just messing with you.
I know.
Don't
but
concede,
that 13, by the way, is more than Michigan State's had drafted in the last 5 years. But that's just a nice little stat for you. You can take that to the bank. But my issue with the Sims pick is this. It's not necessarily that the fact that he's developmental. It's not the fact that the Bengals can't draft offense. I mean, they can't develop offensive linemen. My issue with it is who was on the board at the time. And there were other offensive linemen you could have took that were, I think, in a better position than Sims. But more importantly, there were positions of need that the Bengals needed at that position. You didn't need to trade up. You didn't need to trade down. Right where you were at, and there was players there. Hendrickson wants out, so he's going to be disgruntled this whole offseason probably. Well, there was at least 2 defensive ends that are right there that you could have picked up. There's a plethora of wide receivers. You could have drafted Thomas from LSU. You could have drafted Worthy from Texas. There's all kinds of wide receivers you could have drafted.
And the Chiefs got a good one there too, yeah.
Yeah. And then actually what I thought as the draft was playing out, and I'm not a Bengals fan, but as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm like, one of those corners is going to fall right in their lap. What position, the biggest position of need, in my opinion, for the Bengals, and you had your choice of corners, either one of them, and I would have been like, that would have been, if I was a Bengals fan and one of those would have been got drafted by the Bengals, I'd have been running to the bank buying the jersey. I'd have been ecstatic for that. But no, they try to outthink the room, and they think they're the smartest person in the room, and they're going to draft some 6'8", 350-pound guy, and with 8 starts on his. It just doesn't make sense. I love the Steelers draft. I think they crushed, as they usually do in the draft. I think the Steelers got better. I'm with Kev. I don't understand the Ravens pick. I don't understand their draft at all. No offense, Kenner. I love Zach Zenner. Brought tears to my eyes when his leg got snapped, but that pick makes no sense to me for the Browns.
I don't think the Browns had a great draft. They've had very good drafts recently, but I don't think this was one of their more impressive ones as far as that's concerned.
No, I agree with that. I feel for Zach because I think he was a top draft pick if the leg doesn't get snapped. But coming off that injury, I can't draft you 3rd round. I can't.
Well, hold on, Shaw. The thing is, too, for Zenter, too, the situation for every team is different.
Right.
I'm not trying to be a Browns blowhard here, but their roster's pretty loaded, and they approach it as talent, like the best player available. The Browns are actually a team to take him that high because they don't need him to come in right away. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you on that. But I don't have a problem with that pick only because, okay, he's coming off that injury. They don't need him to come in. They would like him to come in and obviously contribute. But I think that's more about an opportunity down the road because as some of these offensive linemen are about to either move on, they're getting a little bit older, they're going to have to need some help as far as that's concerned. So,
and Shaw, you would know better than we knew. Was there ligament damage? I thought it was just like he broke his leg in 2 places. Like it's a broken leg. Like you throw a rod in there, you're good to go.
Well, it was reported initially as it was 2 broken bones, but then as it was going on, like he had to go back in for surgery again, and I still can't find what that second surgery was for. My suspicion is to fix something ligament. Something wasn't healing correctly. I could be way off basis. That could have been because the second surgery could have been taking some screws out and taking the rod out. I don't know. I'm not thinking that's what would happen as bad as that leg was broke, but maybe that's what it was, and maybe that's why it wasn't reported on. I don't know. I'm just speculating, and that's what it is. But, yeah, I don't know. I was very impressed with what the Lions did trading up to get that corner, which – again, I thought the Bengals could have took him. and then the Lions don't get him. But but overall, as a non-NFL, I don't have an NFL team. Just as a college guy watching, the pick that makes absolutely no sense to me is the Penix pick. It doesn't make any sense why you sign a guy to $100 million for $100 million guaranteed. You're going to draft a kid in the 8th pick, and now you have a decision to make with a guy getting paid $100 million guaranteed or the guy who got drafted in the top 10 picks. I don't see Penix sitting for 4 years. I don't see that. That doesn't make sense to me. But then my football mind also tells me it doesn't make sense to cut a guy who just got paid $180 million with $100 million guaranteed.
Best case scenario, real quick. Best case scenario for the Falcons is this: that Michael Penix Jr. kills it in camp, kills it during preseason, is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Best case scenario for the Falcons is Kirk Cousins is very, very good in 2024, and then they could trade him. And then they kind of don't have to absorb all of that cap hit now, and now you have a rookie quarterback deal for the next 3 years. That's the best case scenario for the Falcons to get out of the mess that they're in right now. The worst case scenario is Kirk Cousins takes a major step back. They have to eat this money, and now they're married to him for 4 years, and then you maybe have a talented rookie quarterback behind him, and now they just have a huge mess. That's the worst case. The best case scenario, both quarterbacks are very good. Michael Penix is a great rookie quarterback. Cousins plays great in 24. They make the playoffs, maybe win a game. Then you can move on from Cousins and hand it off to Penix, and now you have cap flexibility, and they can keep the train rolling. So we'll see.
2 things on that. One, isn't Cousins coming off an Achilles, or was it an ACL?
Achilles.
There's my suspicion on that aspect.
But wouldn't you want have your doctors look at that before you give a dude $100 million?
Yeah, because
100%. These were my questions when they signed him. So and that I guess it goes to my deeper question, because this bringing that up actually reminded me of something that I asked some of my buddies that I was watching the draft with. Does this say that they don't trust what they saw in the doctor's report for Cousins? So
but you gave him $100 million.
It's too late to be questioning that.
It's like before.
Yeah.
You gave him the contract before you got the report back from the doctors. That's a no-no.
Right, 100%. So that's why none of it, the whole thing just doesn't make sense to me. None of it makes sense. But then to your other point, Justin, if I was a team, I don't know. I look at this stuff differently. If you're coming to me with Kirk Cousins trying to trade him to me, I'm not taking any of that money. Why am I going to help you out?
Help you out, right.
Well, I don't have to take that money. So why would I take any of that money? You put yourself in this position. So
yeah, kind of like what the Steelers did with Russell. That's y'all money.
But even look at Denver right now eating the money for Wilson and all that stuff too. So, but 25 mil, they would only have to eat the 25 guaranteed a year. Or the $100 million, whatever. So they have to eat 75 after this upcoming season. That's not a little bit of money, but that's 25 a year. That's all I'm trying to say. It almost offsets to a certain extent, because it's not like and that's why it works for a little bit for Pittsburgh. Well, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me reset this. It offsets a little if they have to eat 25 mil a year on the same time while they have a guy on a rookie contract, because then it washes out. Then it's almost like you're spending that 25 on Michael Penix Jr. But it doesn't mean you had to do that.
Right.
They put them. It's still a bad decision no matter what. But Shaw, we're out of time. I appreciate you calling in.
I got you guys. Go Blue. Peace.
Speaking of that crazy statement he said, I know we got to go to break.
What, go Blue?
Yeah, you'll never hear me say that. Most picks by a school in this year's draft: Michigan with 13. Texas with 11, Washington with 10, Florida State with 10, Bama with 9. So you got the national championship team, the undefeated national championship team, a team that played in the playoff, the team that played in the championship game versus Michigan, and then the undefeated team in Florida State, and then Bama with 9, who played in the championship semifinals as well. So get you some NFL players, and you'll be playing for the Natty.
It's kind of how that works, right?
Yeah.
Or at least put you in position. That's why I always say too, I know people don't like this take of mine, but the committee, the college football playoff committee, does put that into account. Like when we talk about when Cincinnati made the playoff that year, well, winning has to matter, but the committee's looking back. Now they made the playoff ultimately, but the point is the committee's sitting back and saying, and Florida State's the caveat to this, obviously, but when there's like Cincinnati that's undefeated, and if Ohio State doesn't lose to Michigan that year, Ohio State's getting in over Cincinnati. It wouldn't even been up for debate. But they're sitting back saying, if Ohio State has one loss and Cincinnati's undefeated conference champions, we're still going to put Ohio State in because they have better players. Well, they're undefeated, but they have better players. Like the better play, the 4 and 5 stars, we always say that stuff doesn't matter, but it does, because I think that plays a role in the committee room. They don't bring up 4 and 5 stars, but they are looking at the collection of talent on each particular roster. I mean, I know a lot of people hate the 4 and 5 star talk and all that, but there's a direct parallel between the 4 and the 5 stars and the best teams in college football and the 4 and the 5 stars and the guys that ultimately make it to the NFL, as wild as that sounds. So, nonetheless, I know we only have a couple more minutes.
To your point, that UC team had 8 players drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So from the Sauce Gardners to Kobe Bryant to Ritter to Jerome Ford. So, like, they had their fair share of guys on that roster as well. So if they were looking at it, they had 8. So that's a high number.
Not as high as what Ohio State would have had, though.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
The only number for Ohio State that mattered that year was second loss or third loss or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah, because they did. They lost to They lost to Oregon.
Oregon and
they lost to Michigan. Was there a third loss? No, Michigan was the second loss, and that's what made it. Yeah. All right, let's go to Jerry, Raiders fan Jerry. Close this out this hour. What you got?
Hey, gentlemen. Number one, I believe this is correct. I think Atlanta can get move off of Cousins after 2 years and only have a $10 million dead cap hit and before that third year. Because I think they're giving him 45. I think his guarantees are pretty much up after the end of next year.
See, that's why you front load those guarantees, so that it gives you a get-out-of-jail-free card on the back end of these deals a little bit if you have to. So that's a good point. So now they don't have to, if they do move on from Cousins after year 2, they don't have to. They're not eating as much as you think. They're giving it to him up front, so they're paying for it up front and they're getting production early on. But if they have to move on from him on the back end, they're not eating it in the back end, and it doesn't hurt their cap as much. So interesting.
Right. Exactly. So as far as my thoughts on, I thought the Steelers had a really good draft. I agree with you guys. I think the Browns draft will be okay. Like you said, you weren't drafting starters for the most part. You're drafting depth guys. So, it's always kind of a crapshoot with those. As far as the Bengals picking Mims, I can understand why they went offensive line. If anybody thinks Trent Brown is going to play 17 games this year, please call me. Let's get some wagering on that. I've seen the Trent Brown movie. I've seen him only play 10 games a year for my team. He ain't going to play no more than that for the Bengals either. So they had to get somebody.
No, fair. Yeah. But if you're going to get somebody, if you know that,
some experience.
Yes. So no, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I've heard Bengals fans make that argument. Well, I mean, it's not that crazy. I mean, he's going to have to play, and that's the problem. You're going to have to rely on a guy that's only started 8 games to come in and be a starter for you in the NFL when you weren't good enough to start more than 8 games in college. Or maybe he was good enough to start more than that, but it was depth issues. Well, got hurt. But even the depth issues before that. So
he had to have that tightrope surgery on his ankle. So
the Bengals are walking a tightrope drafting him number 18. I'm just saying I'm not letting him off the hook for that.
No, and I'm not either. I think the Thomas kid, the people who say, well, what's the difference between Thomas and Burton? Thomas is 6'3" and ran a 4.33 40, and is maybe the best contested catch guy in the entire draft. I don't know.
Doesn't have character issues.
Yeah, right. As far as Devonta Adams and the Raiders, man, I mean, look, what's he going to do? I mean, the Raiders are a middling team. I'll be the first to admit it. But at least he's in Vegas. He's got no state income tax, and they'll be okay this year. I mean, we went 3-4 down the stretch with the rookie quarterback, beat the champs, beat the Chargers, and beat the Broncos, and then we lost to Minshew in the Colts. So we picked him up. So we'll be all right. I mean,
that division's not as good as it used to be. I mean, like the Chargers, they're not rebuilding, but they're not building to compete for a Super Bowl right away. So they took a major step back. The Broncos are a disaster. All right, the Chiefs, obviously, they're all right. So, but again, that's now, because the last couple of years it was, Justin Herbert and the Chargers with all the weapons that they had. Obviously, the Chiefs, doing what they're doing. You look at the Broncos when they got Russell Wilson. Everyone thought for sure that was going to be one of the top teams in football. That was just one of the big busts in football. So,
their roster's terrible. Yeah. One thing about Justin Herbert, I know you like Herbert. Man, I think Herbert's overrated, and I'll say this: he's a big, strong kid. He can throw it all over the yard. You know who else who could do that back in the day? Jay Cutler. And you know what? Go look at his college record. Go look at Jay Cutler's college record. Go look at all their stats. You tell me. I don't think the kid can win the big game. When's he won a big game?
This is going to sound like some excuses, but no team has had more injuries to their wide receiver room over the last 4 years than the Chargers. I mean, their wide receiver room has missed more games combined than any other wide receiver room in football. You guys could say that's an excuse all you want. There was a stretch last year where he had nothing but practice squad wide receivers out there before he got hurt for the year. And the guy was still putting up close to 300 yards a game and a touchdown and a half a game and was still leading touchdown drives. I'm a big Justin Herbert guy. I think that, but no one's – I'm not – also, I know how silly it is to defend the injury excuse, so I know that no one's going to give him the benefit of the doubt there, but he doesn't have a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins. He doesn't have, a top wide receiver group that's out there every week because they're banged up. So, there's that.
They'll be a lot better because they got a better head coach that's not going to be going for it on 4th and 5 from the coaching, own 20.
Yeah.
He never won in college either. I'll just point that out. So he never won much in college either. So I
won a lot in college.
It's a team game. We can all be honest here and say the Khalil Max and the Bosa's and Derwin James have not played to their potential collectively. Individually, they have played well. But hey man, all those guys make a ton of money because they're all good on their own, but they need to be playing better as a collective. And I'm thinking,
especially for a defensive-minded head coach, that was also weird.
They couldn't get things going on the defensive end. And as much as we all, especially here in Buckeye country, bang on Jim Harbaugh, we can all be honest for a split second and realize he's a very good head coach.
We can like him now, right?
No,
wrong.
I
like the quirky NFL Harbaugh.
No, he still is a very, 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 very good head coach. He's got his team to the Super Bowl. He's got his team to the college football playoff, and obviously just won it. So he's not going to be doing these bonehead things like, hey man, it's 4th and 10 from our own 5. Let's go for it, man. We can pick this up. Oh, incomplete. Darn, we lost. He's not going to be doing stupid stuff like that.
All right, Jerry.
I got you.
Jerry, we're out of time.
Later, guys.
Peace.
Yep. All right, hour number 3 coming up. More NFL around the corner. We'll push our Dayton Flyers talk to tomorrow. There's a problem with Anthony Grant's Flyers right now. You lost, obviously, Kobe Elvis. You lose Kobe Brea. Duran potentially head to the NBA. People I talked to behind this, it just hasn't been announced, but he's going to the NBA.
The association.
So, no Brea, no Elvis. All right, you lose Santos. That was the most recent one that entered the only thing you have coming back is a player you got out of the Horizon League last year, and he knocked cheeks. So, that's a problem. I like Zed Key, but Zed Key was a much bigger addition when you had Brea, when you had Elvis, when you had Santos around him. Now they have, again, opportunities now with all these scholarships open. But, man, it's a problem. All these guys are leaving because NIL. I thought Dayton was a super rich program. I have no clue how they're struggling in the NIL department. Everyone I talked to says they're getting beat out in NIL left and right. Santos isn't a great player.
So not to cut you off, but I view this in this situation, people, they got beat out by NIL. I'm viewing that as people using that as a crutch to say, they're just going there because they want the money. I view that as a crutch, and I'm not 100% sold that all these guys are leaving simply because of the money. You talked about it before. We talked about it last week. Look at the programs that they're being reached out to by. They're being reached out by the UConns and the Dukes of the world. Anybody in their right mind that's getting recruited in the portal from Duke, UConn, North Carolina, Kentucky, they're going to listen. I don't care where you play at. You're going to listen. So the fact that people are just saying, oh, man, they're only left Dayton because they got paid more money. Maybe that's a part of it, but maybe they just want to play on a bigger stage. And that's no knock to the Dayton Flyers. That's no knock to the arena, the fans. They always pack it out. It's much like you've been always talking about. Get out of the A-10, make your way to the Big East.
Well, it's a problem for Dayton because it's if this summer doesn't humble that program, I don't know what will. Because this is a perfect example of they are not the program that they have been trying to tell all of us that they are. Because that's the way they carry themselves and the arrogance and all that, that's all being thumped right now. And I'm not saying they can't turn it around, but they're being thumped right now. They didn't have this mass exodus of players for the longest time. And you have guys, they have a mass exodus after a tournament appearance and a tournament win. Like before, they were just losing guys to the to the portal that weren't getting an opportunity to play, or they were losing guys who were going to the NBA. Now you're losing starters. Mm-hmm. You're losing starters, and you're not getting people coming in. Now they're going to get Zed Key's a big addition. Don't get me wrong, but like it's quiet. We're heading into May. That's why I kind of like the portal. I mean, college basketball is still relevant heading into the month of May. Usually we've closed the chapters, closed the book on college basketball, but man, oh man, a disaster right now in Dayton as far as that's concerned. For a program that, holds themselves a very high standard, they're not living up to that standard as far as that's concerned. And you could say, well, a lot of schools are going through this. That's fine, but they've always carried themselves. We're not those schools. Well, you're just like everyone else as far as that's concerned. But they got the transfer from Marshall, the Connor kid. He played at Alter. It was between Wright State and Dayton, and he picked Dayton. That with NIL being a major factor there. So as far as that's concerned. But Kinner and Kev, 1410 ESPN Radio, hour number 3 next.
You can host the best backyard barbecue